Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome again to another session of Beyond the Title, where we speak with extraordinary professionals with extraordinary experiences. Now, joining us today is Bianca Ghose from Wipro. She is the Chief Storytelling Officer at Wipro, and a unique position that is. Bianca, welcome.
Thank you so much. I mean, I'm just really pleased to be here. It's a Friday today, so it's just a lovely day, lovely time to get to meet you and everybody else.
Yeah, and just before the show, we were talking about our lovely glass of wine. It is it's about 3:30 in the afternoon here. So, hey, cheers. I'll take that sip before we start off now. Bianca, what is that lovely wine you're having?
So it's interesting. My boss, bless him, he's the CEO of Wipro, Thierry. So we went to the Christmas holidays, and I went on a little holiday because I was frustrated staying at home for 11 months. And so I went away for a little getaway to Kerala, and I came back to 3 bottles of Bordeaux all the way from France, and I was like, so I had one bottle. Wow. Which is what I opened today in honor of speaking to you and catching up over a glass of wine.
That is the amazing power beyond the title. But and shout out to Thierry for being an amazing boss, for sending out a lovely bottle, 3 lovely bottles of wine from Bordeaux, an amazing wine region, right?
It is, and Thierry's amazing, and hopefully, COVID willing, I should be able to get myself to Bordeaux very soon.
And the bottle of wine, you've got a Merlot on you, you've got a Cabernet Sauvignon.
It's a Merlot.
Merlot. Same here. From Hungary, though. So next, when you get to France, because I know you're on your route to France sometime soon, we should definitely catch up in Hungary. Hungary is also a beautiful wine region.
Yeah. I've never been to Hungary, but when I found out that you're in Hungary, I was like, it's a stone's throw away. So
it is.
Make hay while the sun shines, right?
Exactly. And we are getting to the travel bit soon enough, hopefully, with all the vaccines out there.
Amen to that. I'm not so sure, George, but I am an optimistic person, so I'll go with what you just said.
Now, tell me about this before we get into Beyond the Titles questions, which I love to always get to know. But this position of Chief Storytelling Officer, that is a unique position. Very few companies have now started realizing that they need someone, right, to be able to create that amazing collage of storytelling prowess within the company. How did you get to being a storyteller? And of course, how did you get to being the Chief Storyteller at Wipro?
It's an interesting story. I was happy doing whatever I was doing in a different organization. And being me, I'm very active on social media. I do a lot of work, pro bono work with not-for-profits for the industry. I do some mentoring work. And so, the former CMO of Wipro, he found me on LinkedIn, I think, doing something, and he reached out and said, hey, we'd love to have a chat. And I was like, okay, if the CMO is reaching out, I'm going to give him that respect and we'll have a chat. And so that one conversation went on for the next 8 months. And I said, you know what, this is possibly going to be the best 2 years of my life, or worst 2, in which case it won't be 2. But what's the risk? Let me take it, right? Because I love the creative freedom, the autonomy that he offered with this role. And the only mandate he gave me was help see Wipro from the inside and tell that story outside. And that to me seemed a very bold move at that point, because, here's a company with Indian origin, which has worked in the IT services industry for the last 75 years, has a certain way of thinking. So if you're willing to experiment and you're willing to take some risks, you're willing to change the way that you think as a company and make, hire people who don't traditionally fit into a technology company, then that shows a certain conviction. And I really went with that. And I have really enjoyed myself in the last almost 4 years now that I've been in Wipro. Done a whole bunch of things, had some amazing projects, some amazing people to work with. Love the fact that I have access to, our leadership, and I'm able to work with them and identify, look, where is our business going? What are our strengths? Where are we bleeding? How can we connect strategy to story? And essentially that's the role that I play. Now, I would say I have a tremendously dynamic, demanding role, which is an addition. I lead comms and messaging for our new CEO, Terry Delaporte,
Awesome.
and loving that. It sort of brings together, or it's, I would say, a culmination of everything that I've done, that I stand for, my convictions, and I'm really having fun with what I'm doing at work.
Awesome, awesome. Now, because you have this amazing breadth of work at NDTV, before that, to HCO Technologies, Wipro, a number of NGOs that you do support.
Mm.
What is the Ikigai that drives you forward? What's that philosophy that gets you out of bed every morning?
Ah, okay, that's a tough one. I would say, Steve, to make a mark. I mean, I still have, I guess, what some people would consider a bit of naivety, to hope that I will be, whatever I do, I'll be able to make a ripple. Maybe not change the world, but make some change, even if it is on a smaller scale. And part of my existence today, Steve, I can't say the same thing maybe 10 years ago, but part of my existence today is really, it's about using all the opportunities that I have, and the space that I've created for myself, to be able to give voice to people who don't have a voice, essentially. And finding those opportunities, big or small, keeps me charged, beyond the everyday.
Awesome, awesome. Funny enough, our guest for last week, Marilyn Wang from Manulife, even she mentioned the same thing. That she's the CMO for Manulife Vietnam, and she said her ikigai is to basically touch one person's life. If she was able to make one person have a better life,
Yeah.
she would have considered her life meaningful and worth it. So it's amazing to hear that also from you, that that mark, that one thing that you could do.
But isn't that the point of life in a way? Because after a point in your career, you've done enough for yourself, right? And there is so much, whether it's experience, whether it's ideas, whether it's just wisdom,
Yeah.
that you're able to share with somebody else. And I believe that, we were talking about this before we started the recording, that um, when you have seen different circumstances in life, when you come from a place that normally doesn't automatically catapult you to success, you have a certain path and certain learnings that you'd want to be able to share with others, because I believe that you become what you see. And so it's important that's why representation is important, right? So
True.
yeah, that's why I'm happy to share whatever I can. But I'm not bold enough to say that, advice to give, but I have my failures and my learnings, and I'm happy to share that.
God bless. God bless. Hey, if life were a movie and you come from the land where, same as I, of course, where we've got the second largest film industry in the world, right? Bollywood, and of course
Yeah.
there's that. But which character would you think your life plays out, or which character would you like to play?
Can I answer that slightly differently?
Sure.
Uh, so, if my life was a movie or a series, as Netflix has now gotten us all addicted to, um, I would say, Steve, that my life would be it would be the Queen's Gambit,
Oh,
and
nice.
it's on Netflix. It's amazing, and I think the one person that I would hope plays me is the lady who played the lady who played the character of Beth Harmon, Anya, I believe is her name, Anya Taylor.
Yes.
She was amazing. Her performance was superb, and and I guess those of you who know me and who saw the series, they said that there were elements of, they reminded her of, they reminded me, her of me, and so I was like, yeah, so I understand why, because I think it's an incredible coming of age story.
Yeah.
It's really about discovery, about sort of your reemergence in the world, and literally a rags to riches story. I mean, I do have a long way to go on the riches front. I have to,
We're treating you well.
but I mean, I do think that there are parallels sort of between my life, my approach to life, and between that Armin's journey.
Do
Yeah.
you play chess?
I don't. I'm not so intelligent.
Not yet. Not yet.
Not yet, but I will try. Currently, I'm learning how to speak French, and
Nice.
hopefully, once I master this, I would move on to something else.
Cool. Cool. Um, I would imagine, you're working a few different time zones with your lovely work, and of course, you having to work with theory as well for a huge part of your job. What's that one app that keeps you sane? How do you keep yourself sane and structured?
You are right about the time zones. Yeah, I work across India, Europe, UK, and the US. Primarily now, obviously, the Central European time zone. But oh my, an app to keep you sane, right? I mean, this is where humanity is at. Everything is digital, right? To stay sane, you need an app. Um, I'm just sorry. I'm looking through my phone.
That's a good one. Which app should I say? I've got 50 apps here.
Yeah, you're right. But I think I know the answer. You know, the one app, Steve, that has kept me grounded, absolutely focused, and brings a lot of discipline to my life is I'm opening it right now. Can you see it? It's
Activity.
the watch and the activity tracker.
Oh, right. Your activity tracker.
You know, it's this is the one thing that I think really sort of brings that focus in my life because now what it's only 7 o'clock and I've finished 110 minutes of exercise even though my goal is 60 minutes today. I've done 10 hours of standing when my goal is 6 hours, and I'm not telling you
Wow.
how many calories I burnt, but essentially this is what keeps me positive. It's been tough, Steve, for all of us, right? Being at
Yeah.
home, not being able to meet anybody, very little movement. And I, after COVID, I had COVID in March 2020. After COVID, I sort of got into this cycle of not sleeping, not eating right. I would eat in the middle of the night. And, emotionally, I was fraught. I was like, what is going on? Because in the last 2 years, I've pretty much been on the road for about 10 to 12 days to 15 days in a month. And here I was stuck at home for the last 5 months, 6 months. So I got into that cycle and it was very difficult to break out of that habit. And so one day I said enough is enough. And then I joined the gym, even though it at that point wasn't safe. But I said, hey, I've already had the COVID. I'm probably immune. So I did. And I got myself a fantastic trainer who's essentially become from my daily agent of torture to a good friend who motivates me and keeps me
Awesome.
honest. And so I would have to say my watch keeps me honest as well.
Awesome. Again, kudos to keeping that structured life there, right? With your activities, especially with the exercises. I've been trying for the longest time to have one straight month of exercise without a cheat day. I have
What's
failed.
your what's your
My Google Calendar. I've connected my personal professional life to Google Calendar. So if it's not there, I do not know it exists. Most of the time, I depend on it. Not to joke, I have my vitamin taking schedule on my calendar.
Oh my God. Oh my
Uh,
God. How are you going to let go of this dependence on technology?
if tomorrow Terminator came to life and we had to stave off AI technology, and call it, cold turkey, I wouldn't know how to schedule my life with a diary anymore. That's how bad it gets. Uh, but hey, are you going to share your activity tracker or your work with the exercises on LinkedIn anytime soon?
I could, yes.
It's a great motivation to others.
I actually did, on my birthday, which
Oh,
was in
nice.
December. So everybody was like, what are you doing? Is there cake? And I'm like, I actually spent 3.5 hours in the gym because I was like, it's Saturday, it's my birthday, I'm going to treat myself. So I spent a lot of time at the gym and I had a great day. Afterwards, had my French lessons for 3 hours and then, had dinner with family. So
Awesome.
Yeah, so exercise has really kept me grounded, I would say, in the last 4 months. So I'm still getting there, essentially working on mobility and strength training and strengthening up my core. And also, I've started now weight training. I love
Oh,
that. So
nice.
at some point,
And what was your cake?
I did get cake, but it was a banana cake. Yeah,
That's a
without
nice
sugar.
cake.
Without
Without
sugar.
sugar. Oh, wow. That is dedication to being healthy. Cake without
Hey, go
sugar.
all the way, right? Go all the way. If you're doing it, go all the way.
I will try that out. I will try out a cake without sugar. Banana cake, favorite. So, this being the month of friendship and love, right?
Hmm.
Um, I call it month of friendship because I do believe that you should take some time to celebrate the amazing people in your life, your family, your friends, your colleagues, your peers. So, how are you, or how do you set an example of camaraderie within your colleagues, your friends, your family?
Um, by being flexible. That's, I think, the one thing we all need to do right now, right? I mean, personally speaking, Steve, I'm a big one for accountability, for always pushing the envelope and always demanding more from my teams and the people that I work with, including our leadership, and always pushing ourselves to sort of step out of our comfort zones. My entire life has been that, right? Every time I've hit a comfort spot, I'm like, about time to move. And so I've brought that to my work personality,
Yeah.
which in a way, I would say pre-COVID, my teams have found nice, sweet ways of telling me that, ooh, boy, you're relentless. So, yeah, I think pre-pandemic, Steve, it's fine, right? But now we're in 2021. Like we were talking about, we possibly have another 6 to 8 months of this
Yeah.
work from home, social distancing situation where we're not meeting anybody. And this is not going to work. I can see pandemic fatigue is setting in. I'm seeing loss of productivity, anxiety, inability to sleep, weight gain. I'm seeing that all across in our teams. And sometimes that's also weighing on people's
Sure.
ability to think creatively. So I think the biggest thing to help our teams and our people, to make them stay motivated is to be flexible. And sometimes it's essentially what I think leadership needs to do. When you bake in empathy and you bake in listening, because I think that's where it really starts. Creating an inclusive workforce, a remote culture starts really with listening, and you do that when you're flexible, uh, when you're making those fair and appropriate accommodations for people because of where they're at, because you're meeting them where they are,
Yeah.
rather than you asking them to come and sort of level up on your expectations of them.
Wow.
So,
And has that also been the biggest leadership challenge you've got, or are there other leadership challenges you're facing right now?
I would have to say that the biggest challenge I'm facing right now is how do you balance accountability with patience? You know, maintaining high expectations along with understanding where people are at emotionally, and then making sure you're at least going more than halfway through to meet them there,
Sure.
and all the while getting their best at work. It's tough, and I think more so because we have a very warped understanding of accountability. I think it's misunderstood because typically what happens is, and this is my view, I think we have a deeply held association between accountability and punishment, instead
Mhm.
of considering that it could be a tool to help people unlock their creativity and their high self, in a manner of speaking. And second, I also feel that accountability is often seen as a one-off event.
So
To
true.
my mind, it's a dial, it's not a switch. And so, my biggest challenge or concern, something that I'm working on constantly right now, Steve, um, is really to sort of build that bridge between accountability and performance,
Cool.
uh, and then connecting that back to patience and empathy.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm looking forward to your secret mantra and how do you combine patience, empathy, accountability, and of course, performance, all
Hey,
in
I'm
one
not sure
line.
I do. I mean, none of us have answers today, right? We've all adapted and we're still adapting. And that's, I guess, the very nature of humanity that we can adapt and be flexible. But I'll tell you when I, have something that's worth mentioning. And yeah, and we'll have another chat. I'm looking forward to that.
I'm
It's
looking
mostly
forward to that. Of course, of course. Now, you being a journalist, and you started off as a journalist, right? You had, I'm guessing, a lot of amazing people come up on a number of your interview shows, or you covered a number of amazing pieces. What was it like going to Davos for the first time, and then you've been there for 4 years running, right? What has it been to go to Davos with that hat of a journalist first, and then a storyteller?
First, my first reaction was, wow, this is colder than I had expected. It was minus 17 degrees Celsius, and as an Indian, yeah, the max I've experienced is 1 degree Celsius in Delhi.
In Delhi.
Yeah, so I've lived in Delhi for 20 years, and so that was my first reaction, to be honest. That I don't know how I'm going to survive the next 7 days. Once I was a little warm and I could, sort of, I actually did extra shopping because I was underpacked. Um, my next thought was, this is the big deal. You have all the CEOs and all the chairmen and chairpersons, I should say, um, corporate leaders, policymakers, everybody's here. But it was an interesting dilemma because when I went to Davos, I was still at that point in my life, kind of split between stories that need to be told and stories that I'm paid to be told. There is a difference, and I am very clear about that. That brand storytelling has a purpose. Brand storytelling furthers the perception of a company's capability and its culture, but it isn't news, which is almost always fact based. I don't go back to news of today, but I'm talking about news from when I used to be a journalist. So I did have that interesting dichotomy in my mind that I was like, all of this meeting, whining, dining, exclusive conversations, big deals are being cracked on the sidelines of Davos. But really, is that translating into something? We're talking about stakeholder capitalism. We're talking about climate emergency, as I like to, follow Greta and say it's not climate change, it's an emergency that we're in. We're talking about all of these things. We're talking about equitable distribution of wealth and poverty and injustice. But what does that really translate into in the 12 months that followed Davos? So I guess I was kind of dealing with that in my mind. And then I got really busy and I had a good time.
Awesome. And have you had the chance of interviewing someone at Davos that you always wanted to interview?
um,
Or at least sit down and have a chat?
yes, yes, a whole bunch of people. A few of those relationships stay. There was the former CEO of Philips Connected Healthcare. We met the first time I went to Davos, 2017, and we've stayed in touch. In fact, we had a meeting about 2 or 3 months ago, and the first thing she remembered was how we partied in the morning. And there are some great many relationships that I've been able to build, some interesting videos that I've recorded, but also just offline conversations and listening to people and absorbing, really, because we're all learning, and there are some people who have a lot of wisdom and a lot of experience, and they're coming there to share that. So it was a great experience. Yes, I would go back there once we're able to travel again, of course.
Wow. Wow. Awesomeness. And again, I'm
Have
hoping.
you been to Davos? I mean, it's going to be tremendous if you're able to get there.
I'm hoping next year will be the year I get to Davos. The reason, of course, this year, has been the year it has been. But I also follow a lot of the impact Davos has
Yeah.
on, as you mentioned, climate emergency. We're talking about, how companies are working towards a sustainable future. We're talking about how equitable, Sorry, my brain just froze for a second. We're talking about how we're going to distribute that wealth
Yeah.
in a way that will support communities across the globe and not just certain communities that are gifted to have those companies, right?
Yep,
Um,
absolutely. And
yes,
that is meaningful because I think collaboration is the way forward. I mean,
yes,
we can all exist in silos, but the challenges of tomorrow, today rather,
yeah,
they cannot be solved, by one organization or one government. So we have to come together. And I think one of the salient points of a summit like Davos, and there are many such, is really the ability for people to come together, find that underlying philosophy that connects people, and forging ties that can help make change, because we
true,
have some really big struggles ahead of us, from
yeah.
inequity to injustice to the climate crisis, yeah, gender inequality, we could go on, right? But
There are quite a few, and we'll, of course, we try to, and this is the event producer within me that speaks now, but that is something that we try to also um, create positive impact towards with Reshape, which is an event that's coming up in April. um,
Mhm.
I'll send you details for that just after this call. But yes, hey, okay, so going back a bit more now, focusing on you completely, not me. uh, um, what are your hopes for the future?
Oh, personally speaking, Steve, I have to say to be with my partner. The pandemic has kept us apart for far too many months,
Wow.
and there's nothing more that I want than to be with him. It's been tough. But if I were to sort of extend that beyond just myself, I do want to believe that some of these lessons and collective reflections from 2020 and 2021, some of those changes that we are seeing, they're going to be a little bit more long term and permanent. Um, I do hope that we will do better as human beings. Better to the planet, better with each other, better at eliminating bias and injustice. I've personally been a big proponent of and had a voice, whatever little I could have had in women's rights activism, and for almost 2 decades now. And you know, that's one area that I really hope that we're able to make some good progress in this year and going forward, because we know for a fact that the pandemic has disproportionately affected women's
Yeah,
representation in the workforce. And there's so much conversation now. Oh, this is the equalizer, right? Distributed workforce, remote work. It is such an equalizer for women. But it is tempting to think that, but I don't believe it is, because embedded assumptions about gender roles, I think that squarely puts the burden of care, schooling, childcare, elder care on women. And so I do believe that this year and going forward, companies, public bodies, they are going to start looking at the impact that bias and everyday sexism is having on women's productivity and their
yeah,
progress. And they're willing to make permanent changes, because the time for platitudes is long gone, right?
true,
We have to
true.
move from talk and conversation and dialogue and panel discussions to real action, and decisions now. And that's my
Amen.
hope for
Amen
the
to
future.
that. And one of the companies I do believe and huge fan of is Avon. Something I learned recently, well, when I say recently was last year, uh, was that wherever Avon has an office, they do set up a help line for women, uh, just to be able to talk, because they need someone to just be there and listen to, or
Mhm.
to be there to help in any way that they can.
That's
Um,
tremendous.
it is right. And Avon has not used that as a PR stunt till date, which is something I admire to the
Which
to
is
highest
good,
degree.
because you want to do this with purpose and not because you
Yes.
want to pull a PR stunt, right? Not pulling a PR stunt here, Steve, but something that I'm personally proud of, is that during the pandemic, I sort of led from the front Wipro's movement, so as to say, around breast cancer awareness. So all of September, October, November, December actually was
Wow.
spent on that, whether it was getting a 24/7 helpline available to every employee in every country and to their families for online and WhatsApp consulting, to workshops online, obviously, webinars with oncologists, internal campaign, external campaign. It was meaningful because
Of
I
course.
realized from personal experience that because of the pandemic, whatever is standard health checkup, your mammograms and your standard sonograms, all of them have been pushed to the back burner. So what is happening now is you will see that there's enough research to prove that 2021 and beyond, at least for the next 2.5 years, there's going to be a sudden spike in the number of invasive breast cancers that are detected. And so it is incumbent on us, for those who can, to do something about it, whatever little we can, right? So I was really proud to sort of lead that from the front. And again, we did not make a huge deal about it because we were like, this is about employee wellness. This is about caring for our employees. So let's just get there and do what we need to do.
God bless. God bless to that. Hey, at that, Bianca, thank you so much for joining Beyond the Title. It has been amazing speaking with you. I could have had another hour or so to speak with you because there's so much I would love to ask. But of course, we are hoping that you will join Reshape and we can continue this conversation then.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And I think most importantly, I'm glad that we've made a connection. This world is all about people and places. We can't get to places right now, so it's all about people. Happy to know you a little bit, and we're going to stay in touch. And hopefully, I'll get to join Reshape as well.
Of course, of course. Look forward to that. Hey, guys, thank you so much for joining us again at Beyond the Title. Please do leave your comments down there. We are here every week, 10 a.m. CET, 5 p.m. Singapore time. And if you want to reach out to us, reach us via LinkedIn, also our YouTube comments. And if you'd like to recommend someone for a show, hey, you know how to reach us. Thank you. Have a great day and stay safe.